Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Megan and I am the witch here around the cauldron. We recently went berry picking. We picked some blueberries, and so today I want to show you how I make a blueberry spread that can go on toast or bagels. I've put it on top of cheesecake, anything that really requires some sort of fruit spread that's not a jelly or a jam, you can do with this. I'm going to be using blueberries because that's what I have an abundance of right now, but you can do this with most fruits and you only need a couple of ingredients. I have my blueberries, and then you need a lemon or half a lemon. You're going to use the juice. You're also going to need water and a sweetener of your choice. I'm probably going to use granulated sugar just because it is the easiest, but you can also use honey or stevia or whatever you have. And while we make this, I want to talk a little bit about the blueberry plant as it relates back to witchcraft, paganism, and magical correspondences. So let's get started doing this. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to talk to you about the magical blueberry.
The very first thing we need to do is wash our berries. Even if you buy your berries at the store, you should always rinse them before you eat them. This gives you a chance to get any dirt off of the berries, but to also pick off any stems or remove any berries that aren't good to eat. While we wash the berries, let's talk a bit about the blueberry plant itself. Blueberries are a widely growing and widespread group of perennial flowering plants that produce the sweet berries we eat. Commercial blueberries, both wild and cultivated, are all native to North America. The cultivated varieties were introduced into Europe in the 1930s. Europe and Asia have their own variety of berries similar to blueberries called bilberries. They resemble blueberries, but they're distinct. Once we have the berries rinsed, it's time to move to the stove. Grab your pot and place the freshly washed blueberries inside with a bit of water. I honestly don't measure anything because if I have too much liquid, I just simmer the mixture a little bit longer. You add some water to the berries and put the lid on the pot, setting the heat to about medium-low. We're going to simmer the mixture for 10 minutes at a time, stirring occasionally to make sure it's not burning. You can also get your lemon ready to juice, but we're going to do that closer to the end. Now, there are countless varieties of blueberries to choose from. When we went berry picking, the berry farm had at least 10 different kinds. There was even a variety called a raz blueberry, and I'm not kidding, they taste just like raspberries. Humans aren't the only creatures who enjoy eating blueberries. Unfortunately, the berry farm we visited had a huge crop loss because of the Japanese beetle Papillia japonica, which was first found in the US and New Jersey about 80 years ago. These little beetles have plenty of natural enemies in their homeland of Japan, but there aren't a lot of enemies for them here in North America, so they can infest a crop very quickly. We did come home with plenty of berries though, hence the reason I'm making this spread. Besides being really good for you physically with antioxidants and polyphenols and potential benefits, blueberries can be a great ally to have in your magical practice. Now, you won't find any historical folklore about blueberries from outside North America because they weren't introduced elsewhere until the 1930s. Europe does have the native bilberry bush, but as I said earlier, they're two distinct plants. I have heard that the correspondences and associations for blueberries and bilberries are interchangeable, but I obviously can't verify that myself. Here in North America, the folklore surrounding blueberries comes from different indigenous peoples and their stories. It's honestly very hard to weed through information and research on North American indigenous folklore. There's a lot of nonsense interspersed with the truth, so I've done my best to verify the information. Back to the recipe though. Once you're satisfied with the consistency of your blueberry spread, remember it will thicken as it cools. Go ahead and add in your lemon. I squeezed in about half of a lemon's worth of juice, I guess. I also like to add chia seeds into my blueberry spread. It helps to give it a little bit of a thicker consistency. Plus it adds a lot of fiber and good omegas for your cardiovascular health. I also sweeten it with about 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Really, 2 tablespoons for this entire pot's worth of blueberry spread is not bad at all. Again, if you don't have granulated sugar or if you'd rather use something else, be my guest to substitute your sweetener of choice. We're just going to mix it all in, give it a good stir, and let it simmer a little bit longer. Some indigenous folklore says that the Great Spirit sent the starberry, which is what they called blueberries, to Earth to relieve famine. The blueberry plays a large role in indigenous life, and it was a main ingredient in a dish prepared with dried blueberries, dried corn, and water. I actually learned a lot about the Wabanaki people of New England and Canada while researching this subject, and I came across a documentary that's screening on Maine Public's website called Voices from the Barrens: Native People, Blueberries, and Sovereignty. This documentary follows the Wabanaki people from both the United States and Canada down to the Barrens of Maine for the annual wild blueberry harvest. It begins screening on August 7th, and if you can get the chance, I highly recommend watching it. If I'm not mistaken, it is free to watch on Maine Public's website, and I will leave that link in the description box below. I know I will be watching it either when it screens or on demand afterwards if I can't catch it on a live screen. Now, an article on the Smithsonian Libraries and Archives website says that in the 1600s, an English settler named John Josselyn observed New England inhabitants, both indigenous and colonizers, using blueberries to cool the heat of fevers and quench thirst. So it's apparent in more ways than one that blueberries played a large role in the ancient practices of indigenous peoples, as well as the current practices of indigenous peoples today. Now, turning to the bilberry, there are countless stories of bilberries in folklore. One such story comes from Ireland. RTE, Ireland's National Public Service Media, writes about the bilberry plant and Bilberry Sunday, the first Sunday in August. They say, for those inclined to follow superstitious belief, bilberries were not to be collected after the first Sunday in August, as the fairies and Crom Dubh, the dark and crooked figure of the harvest, had spat on them in the same way they spoiled and cursed blackberries at Halloween. This important calendar marker between the last Sunday in July and the first Sunday in August was of practical, community, symbolic, and ritualistic significance to traditional agricultural societies. Its status is best illustrated in the numerous names of the festival that survived into the 20th century: Harvest Sunday, Lammas Sunday, Bilberry Sunday, Mountain Sunday, Patron Sunday, Garland Sunday, Davnach Crom Dubh, to name a few. And I really hope that I didn't butcher those too bad. Now, on a more broad scale, blueberries and bilberries have come to be associated with abundance, prosperity, health, and protection. I like to use blueberries in the kitchen, of course, and this blueberry spread can be imbued with magic and intention to suit your needs and practice. This blueberry spread could probably keep in the fridge for a week or so, but honestly, it never lasts that long in my house. My favorite way to eat it right now is to spread it on a bagel or to mix it in some of my vanilla yogurt. If you make this blueberry spread, please let me know in the comments below. I will leave the full recipe in the description box below, and I will also write it up on my website if that makes it easier for you to read and follow along. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the blueberry and getting a delicious new recipe to try in your own house. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I will see you in my next video.